Can you tell me what bringing the Az means?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Live from the Bellagio in sunny Las Vegas, it's the CRM Playaz. Now, bringing the Az, please welcome Brent Leary and Paul Greenberg.
I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I know this is a little different because we've never actually had any kind of intro before, but that's our first new intro, our first ever intro since we started bringing the Az in 2009?
Mm-hmm. And we have no idea what it is. Clearly.
We still don't know what it is, but I actually kind of like the intro, so we might keep this one and we might twerk. Nah, we're not going to twerk.
Yeah, we'll put little screens on our butts.
No, we're definitely not doing that.
Little screens on our butts, twerk and show
I was
videos.
Trying to say we might need a little work. We might need to tweak things, but
tweak the work. Not
that can't possibly be how that.
Just imagine inverting that. Tweak the work becomes twerk the week.
But like tweak the work, that's not like what the original meaning of twerk was it?
Not twerk, but tweak. Tweak is tweak. Twerk is.
No,
twerk.
like tweak the work. That's like the perfect.
That wasn't. Yeah, I know, but that wasn't how they got twerk.
I didn't think so.
That was more of Miley Cyrus had something to do with twerk.
That didn't sound like anybody was tweaking the work, or it doesn't look like.
No, it doesn't look like anybody's tweaking the work either.
Anyway, we are the CRM Playaz, and look, I think Bob is trying to unseat our buddy Sven here. What
you can't, Bob. We can't respond to that. We literally can't respond to that. I'm sorry.
But just hang in the background there, Bob, because if we don't hear from Sven in a couple of weeks, we might have to, do what we got to do. By the way, Rebecca, yeah, that's not it either. Not on anybody's bingo card, to be quite honest.
To be honest, I had no idea either of you played bingo.
I used to sing B-I-N-G-O. Bingo.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, we have been let me get the old thing here, bringing the Az since 2009, and I just like that whole little intro. Maybe I'll explain why it's so.
I wonder if anybody figured out who the people were.
Well, of course they're not us, but they're like our representatives.
That's right. We hired some reps.
By the way, I mean, if you look at that intro, and maybe we'll play again. I don't know. I don't know what the heck label they put on that guy's hat. It definitely wasn't a Rams logo. Let's put it like this.
Well, it's clearly not me either.
Yeah, but that New York shirt looked legit.
Yeah, it kind of did. But keep in mind, one thing that was missing: glasses, right? Which I happen to wear all the time. There you are.
Hey, Sven.
What the hell?
I don't want to replace you, but where are you? What's going on here? Bob snuck one in on you. We didn't want to replace you.
Did you notice, Sven? We would refuse to answer it.
I didn't even call it a moment of fagel.
No, you're the man for this, Sven. But we need your input.
Yeah, we can't do moment of fagel. That just it doesn't have the same ring as moment of Sven. But
Bob's got his own limited series.
You got to be here to do it, Sven. So
Bob has got a pop-up series with us anyway, so he's already set.
He's already popping.
He's got his thing.
I wish we all had our thing in life, but
Wow, that's kind of morbid.
Anyway, Sven, are we not having it today, or what's the deal? We really like the moment of Sven. We thought you might have run out of languages. So, but look what we got here. Oh man,
Polish.
Man, that was quick.
Doesn't mean I'm right, but Polish is what I'm going with.
All right,
going with Polish.
The moment is Finn. The venerable Paul Greenberg goes with Polish.
Sven, what do we got there, Sven?
Let us know what we got. And see, that will fend off Fagel's attempts.
Yeah, right. He's already out. Just all you had to do is that, and he's out.
Damn. Tough ship here.
Yeah. Well, moment of Sven's sacred. It's
sacred?
Yes.
Do we need some kind of like chanting in the background?
Sven, the essence of Sven. That'd be a product we sell.
No, we didn't.
Posted.
We only saw it the one time.
Yeah, it only popped up once.
Maybe it's a StreamYard thing. Who knows?
Oh no, only see it the once. I'm looking at the individual comments.
Anyway,
But is it Polish?
yeah, you got to let us know. I heard something on your end, but
No, that was me. That noise.
Well, anyway, we'll be on the lookout for the answer to our moment is Finn, the venerable Paul Green. Oh, wait a minute, I see something here. Polish.
Thank you.
Greetings, my loved friends. Or is that loved? No, it's not loved.
Yeah, it's probably my loved friends. Yeah, it is loved.
Like beloved. They don't say beloved, or I guess
no, but it's loved friends. Friends I love. Loved friends, the adjective. So she saw it twice.
I don't know. We only saw it once, so we and it counts it only counts when we see it. So sorry, gotta have some hard and fast rule. If we can't see it, kind of hard for us.
That's right.
Anyway, it's good to be back. You know, we've been on the road, or at least I've been on the road, and you were on the road a couple weeks ago when we were at Pega World, and then last week was Connections. And Rebecca told me this story about her and Liz Miller's 3-hour trip getting from McCormick Place to the airport.
3 hours? What time did they leave?
I think she said like 3 in the afternoon was probably.
Oh my God, yeah. That's the middle of rush hour in Chicago, both ways. That's everybody going home to the suburbs. Why in hell would you ever schedule a plane like that? I'm sorry, that's on you. I can't have any sympathy.
Wow.
I lived in Chicago 22 years, man. And the first thing you ever learn is don't travel in rush hour because everybody else is, right? So
why don't you tell that advice to everybody? Then everybody wouldn't do that. But apparently everybody is ignoring.
Well, because I don't know everybody in Chicago.
I don't know. Whoa, hey, look who it is. It's Marta.
Marta, how are you, you lovely human being?
I like the little heart at the end.
I do too. Wow. Marta's one of those lovable and loving people.
Like Gilligan's Island.
Yeah. Marianne, or what was the other one?
Ginger,
Marianne, Professor, Gilligan,
and the skipper.
Skipper. No, but what about the professor's wife? What was her?
No, you mean you're talking about Thurston Howell and
Howell and
his wife, Lovey.
No, but
Lovey.
That's right. That's right. Lovey.
Yeah,
that's what they call Thurston Howell and Lovey. That we can't forget them. The millionaire. That's right. The millionaire and his wife.
Yeah, that's Thurston and Lovey.
The movie star and the rest.
Ginger. I was always a Marianne kind of guy.
I was too, totally. 100%.
Ginger seemed like she was fronting and trying to be too.
Yeah, no. Dawn Wells was that natural, beautiful, totally sweet young person.
You know what? Something kind of ruined it for me with Marianne, though.
What?
She was still doing that hairstyle, like when she was in her 80s, and it just kind of looked
in her 80s. Really? She did that long?
Yeah. It's like she lost who her original identity was, and she just became like forever Marianne. And
yeah, well, that literally works till you're 29. Not
well, she was working it until she was like 69 or I don't know, something like that. Anyway, we didn't really mean to go down that rabbit hole.
Not the worst.
It's not the worst, but we do have some. It's like a homecoming of sorts for our guest that we will bring on a little later. But you all know who he is, but you're just still gonna have to wait because we have some stuff to do. All right.
So what do we got?
So we're pretty much done with the spring conference season.
So watch parties that'll be put in abeyance for a little while.
Where is the abeyance?
In New Jersey.
Oh well, you'll put that in the abeyance.
Yeah, I'll go to New Jersey and put it there.
So
abeyance.
I think we should do a show where we assemble the crew and just go over the first half of the spring conference season as a whole and get everybody's take on it.
Okay. See, well, I got a different show for us on July 11th. I think that's a Thursday, right? I'll talk to you
Yeah, I
about it
think
later.
so.
But I'll talk to you about it later. But after that, well, I'm gone actually. After that,
Well,
for
what we're trying to do after
no,
that on the 25th of July is, and this is actually an idea that we got from
on the
Elena
25th.
Ryan.
I think I'm not home yet from
I thought you,
Newfoundland,
I thought you said you were home.
unless
Yet.
it's 24th.
I thought
I
you
have
said you're going from the 4th to the 18th or something like that.
no, not. I think it might be the 18th to the 24th. Let me take a look.
Well, while you're doing that,
Yes.
yeah, check that out because I already kind of pitched it, but we'll do it eventually. But one of the really great ideas that we got from Elena Ryan, who is our point person extraordinaire at Pega, is we were just tossing some emails around, and she came up with this great idea. It's like, you guys do all these watch parties and you go to all these events and you get a whole bunch of people to talk about it and as part of the watch party. And she's like, what might be make a good show would be, what about getting a group of the folks who are responsible for putting these events on and having a group conversation to talk about, what really goes into those events and how they put them together and how they determine what goes here and what goes there.
I think that's so.
And I'm like, that is such a great idea because there's a lot of stuff. Like all we see is the final product or the finished goods or the live stream or whatever. And it's so easy for us to like pick apart that stuff. We don't know what goes into that. And so it would be great to actually get a little inside baseball on that. Or if you're more of a football player or watcher, inside football, but to actually bring a group of the folks that are responsible for putting these huge events together. Why don't we get them together and have a conversation about what it takes to do what they do, and how do they look at things? And I was like, man, that sounds great. So hopefully sometime in
no, we're good. We're good. I'm gone from the 17th to the 24th.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're good.
Yeah.
So we're looking at July 25th to have, it's hard to believe this will be the official first Playaz executive roundtable of 2025, which is crazy. But we did have that little thing called IRL 25. So that
Took a little time.
Yeah. So we're going to look to assemble a number of the folks at the vendors who are responsible for putting these big events together and bringing them together and having a conversation about kind of what goes into that. How do they do things? Why do they do those? Why don't they do other things? I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a really good time.
Interestingly, over the years, I used to work with, as one of them was doing my advisory stuff, I used to work with the the events teams. So, for example, I used to work every year most every year on messaging with the Dreamforce events team. Probably one out of every 2 years I would do that. And it's fascinating to see what it takes for them to even think through messaging for the whole event. And it's hard. I mean, I had a lot of suggestions, which they mostly ignored, but nonetheless, it's just, there's a lot of people, and that's the other side. There's a million moving parts.
Yeah, lots of stuff. But let us know. Would you be interested in seeing something like that? Hearing that conversation, participating in that kind of thing? As you can tell from us, we really like the idea, and a number of you go to so many events. Wouldn't it be interesting to just hear how some of these things come together? And because I'm sure there are things that we are absolutely not thinking about that they are always thinking about, and that might answer some questions that we have too, like coming at it from the other side. So,
well, I'm looking forward to it. You got to give them, their props for what they do. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And they have so many different constituencies they've got to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
By the way, look at this, a blast from the past.
Oh my God, man. How are you?
Man, you know what? Matt was we met him when, I guess, right after what was it called again? That got bought by by Salesforce. I forget they were in the contest, and I cannot remember the name before it became like Service Cloud.
Oh yeah.
What is the name of that?
Damn it, they were in CRM Idle
Yeah, exactly.
with an A. With an A.
Yeah, and a LY, a Sicily.
Sicily.
A Sicily. That's it. A Sicily. And then we got a chance to really get to know
Matt
them.
says Heroku.
He wasn't a part of a Sicily.
I thought I knew you, man. I even thought I knew. I was sort of thinking the same way as
there
Brent
it is.
here.
A Sicily. Yeah. That's what I remember. And
me too.
A Sicily turned into desk.com. Yeah.
Right. And that's how I remember meeting Matt there at a Sicily.
Okay, there it is. You are right. The chat is. Okay. So I guess these questions.
No, look, Sven's second entry showed up.
I don't know what the hell. See, StreamYard, we might have to really.
I think it's time to
rethink
say goodbye to StreamYard
because they're doing a terrible job with.
Yes, they are, and
but
so
anyway.
double the price and half the benefit.
But we are still glad to see you, Matt. Very good to see you. Actually, I even we did a session at Dreamforce years ago where it was me and Matt, and we were talking about something. I don't know.
I think I haven't talked to Matt for a long time, but if I remember correctly, and last time I looked, and it was a while ago, Matt, you had gone to the Linux Foundation and I never understood how you got there exactly, but I don't know if you're still there or not.
I heard
it's been a couple of years, probably.
I heard he took Google Maps and he found a way to get there.
I don't know. I have no idea where it is.
That was
so I can't tell you. No, I got your joke.
That was a bad thing.
Yes, it was. It was on tune of. Never mind. I won't go to the joke.
No, it wasn't that bad, was it?
It almost ruined you.
So Sven is saying it's LinkedIn having an issue. I don't know. I think we have some issues like this with.
Oh, so he's still there. He's still there.
Oh, very cool.
Way to go. You've been there a while, if I remember correctly, though. I mean, last time I looked, it's been at least a couple of years since I took a look to see where you were, and I saw the Linux Foundation then. But I don't know. I don't remember when you started there. So, and you're still there. So that's at least a couple more years than I knew.
All right. Well, first of all, it's great to see you. And I think
it is.
We need to do, I think he reached out before. We never got a chance to set a time up to talk. So we need to do that because it's been way too long. But
yes.
Anyway, so before we move a little further, I think I've seen the first real signs of the tariffs kicking in.
Why?
Because I'm going to walk through this here. Okay. Whoa. Wait a minute. I don't think that was the one I really wanted to put up.
That seemed to be an accessory for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3.
Yeah, I'll get to. So I've been using that DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I think I bought it in 2023, sometime in 2023. Right. I bought the Creator Combo Kit. And at that time, it was $669.
Right.
Fast forward to April of this year. I was like, you know what? I think I want to get a second one of those things. It must have been the first week in April, and I'm making sure I designate that. That was after Liberation Day was announced, if anybody remembers that, and how that all went down with the tariffs. So I wanted to get another one. I wanted to get one before it went up. So I went to Amazon, found it, and it was. I just bought I didn't buy the full-blown kit, but I just bought the individual second Pocket 3 and a battery, the little battery on the end.
Okay.
I think that came to like $620 or something like that.
With and the Creator Kit was only basically $49 more.
Back then,
right.
In 2023 it was.
Right.
So our mutual friend Sandy Lowe sent me a message saying, "Hey, what's that thing, the little thing you walk around with at the events? I'm going to buy some for our team." So I was like, "Oh yeah, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's great." I said, "Make sure you get the Creator Kit."
Yeah, you need the extras.
I already showed you what it costs, so I'm not even going to ask you
I know.
So I'm not going to.
I'll say this: I bought one a while back, based on what you had said for the 669.
660. All right, so I was like curious, like, wow, all right, I haven't looked at the price on this lately. What is the thing that we both bought for 669? Like maybe a little like a year and a half ago or something like that.
Yep.
That same thing now costs $979.
Unreal.
900 and it's almost doubled. That's craziness. That's really the first time I saw the tariff thing really kick in. I haven't bought any big things lately, so that has gotta annoy people.
Oh, I see small elevations of price going on in a number of, especially AV equipment produced in China or Turkey or somewhere else. Edelkrone, which is the one who does all the sliders and the jibs and all these things that they use for automated camera shots, they actually made a commitment after Liberation Day saying for the next month we'll pay the tariff difference.
Wow.
Right. That's how bad it is. And notice there's a time limit on how long they were willing to do that. Right. Meaning there's going to be a general increase in our prices and they estimated for them, it was an additional, I think, 25% at the time or something like that. So 25% increase in price. This is already expensive equipment that most people buy when they have sales of it because it's expensive. Right. So the sale difference, like a 25% sale after you raise 25% price, just takes it back to the price you expected it to be, right? So when it was full price, so the bargains like that, or not even bargains, the discounts are gone, So
that's tough, man.
Yeah,
but you know what? It's still the same price as it's always been.
Double mint gum.
And now it's time for Stump the Godfather.
How much is that?
The venerable Paul
Free.
Greenberg. Brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics
Well, I'm
365.
imposing a 40% tariff on it.
All right, it's back, folks. I know it's been a while, but Stump the Godfather is back, and I know I can hear the people applauding. Yes, I can hear it.
Yeah. I can hear me pounding my head with the microphone. I'm just
All
not
right.
doing it in person.
Well, while you
cut
you
over
do
there.
that, we'll still go
Okay.
forward.
I will do it in person then.
All right, here we go. This week's Stump the Godfather. I couldn't say who it is because that might give away the answer. So, an industry CEO now believes the total addressable market, some people call that TAM, for data center AI will exceed blankety blank 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 billion by as soon as 2028.
I have a question. What in the hell is data center AI? I've never heard AI use a adjective of data center in front of
people buying data centers for the purposes of AI. That's what that means. Data center.
You mean so this is the market for data centers that will use AI or for services provided by
buying data centers because of AI. That's all I'm going to give you, and I'm going to give you.
Meaning it's not the only services the data centers provide.
The number was $45 billion. So what's that number going to be in 2028? If it's $45 billion in 2023,
another one of these
5 years later,
worded things.
2028.
Once again, a poorly. You know what? My English and journalism degree.
Just say for data center AI. That's all. That's it. Most of the
my
stuff.
sensibilities
Most
are
of these
offended.
data centers are getting created because of AI.
My sensibilities for language are offended.
All right,
by
folks.
This.
Let's see. Let's get some numbers rolling in.
Boo! Lousy.
What do you think?
Lousy structure.
If it was $45 billion in 2023, what do you think it's going to be in 2028?
So does this mean that the data centers are providing the AI services, or that AI is using data centers that will provide its services?
let's get those guesses rolling.
Yeah,
in.
right. There's no way to tell.
I
I'd
just
say
gave
it's
you
going to be
45 billion
minus
in 2023.
23.7 billion. Minus 1/10 of 1/100%.
All right,
billion.
Rebecca is saying 40, and if,
no,
if
400.
oh, excuse me, 400. If Patrick is around, how many? Oh, there she goes. So Patrick is saying, what does that mean?
Whoa,
500
500.
billion?
That's 500.
Okay. So Rebecca
I think Patrick's minimum woof is 100.
and Marta is saying 500 billion. Sven is saying, whoa, 800. So 5 years, 2023 is 45 billion, and Sven is saying it might be 800 billion. That's pretty significant. So we've got 400, we got 500 twice because of Patrick and Martha, and we've got Sven at the high end so far at 800. And if our guest wants to take a shot at guessing, put it in the private message, and we'll let people know what your guess is. All right. Going once, going twice, going. All right. Now, the Venerable Paul Greenberg.
By the way, billion what?
Dollars. It's dollars. Everything we do is dollars. We're not doing
You've
like
heard of
drachmas
euros, right? You've heard of euros. And
when is the last time I asked a question on here with euros or drachma or whatever?
Before I end, there is an answer from our guest.
Oh, okay. Let me make sure I get that in. Bob is coming in at, it has to go up by 4 or 5 times. So that would be, what I say, the first one was 35. 35 times.
So Bob's saying about one.
Pick one. There's a big difference between 4 and 5, Bob. Or you could just give a number like everybody else does. All right. Let's see what our guest is saying. 350. Now, honestly, if I were to like piggyback on anybody for this particular one, I would piggyback off that.
I have every intention of doing that.
All right, so Bob, give us a round number, please. And since you've heard our guest and his guest, it's kind of hard saying our guest. That's tough.
Yeah, so don't.
All right, the Venerable Paul Greenberg,
So what? Wait, what do we got? We got 350.
We got a range.
We got 400.
350 all the way to 800.
350, 400, 500.
Twice.
What was Marta's? Was what?
They were
Five,
both
500. Okay, and then we've got 800. Is that right?
That's right.
And Bob has 4 to 5 times something.
No, we want around a full
well,
number.
We'll round it up for him. So 5 times 35 is 1.
Oh, now he's saying 1 trillion plus. So
that's not going to be it, Bob. You know why? Because Brent is just cutting out the number from the actual number. He's cutting. That's why billion is in there.
I know. I gave you a hint there, Bob. It was
there's no way it's a trillion. Otherwise, it would say blank trillion. There's just no way.
All right. So you are going with.
I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with 325.
Oh wow, he's coming up. This is not The Price is Right, by the way. But yeah, just
no. I'm not. I don't care whether I win or not. At this point, I've given up on winning. I win on the moment of Sven. That's where I win.
Hey,
this one I lose 98% of the time.
All right, so we've got guesses going from 325 all the way up to a trillion.
You know what? I'll tell the hell with that. I'll just throw something in the middle here. 625.
All right.
I'm going to 625.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, it is.
All right. He's locked in. So we got 325 all the way up to a trillion with everything in between, basically. And the answer to this week's Stump the Godfather question is, you know what? We got an intro, but we still don't have a drum roll. Maybe we'll work on that.
All right. We need a drum roll. If we have an intro, we have to have a drum roll.
All right. Here we go. The answer is, ooh,
Marta on the nose.
Marta and Patrick.
And Patrick, that's right. Marta and Patrick on the nose.
All right. Now I can tell you where I got this number from. This is coming from the AMD CEO, Lisa. I think it's Lisa Su. I don't know how. I might.
I had a feeling it was NVIDIA or a chip maker of some kind.
So it's 45 all the way up to 5. So that's a 10x, over a 10x in 5 years. That's still incredible when you think about it.
Patrick and Marta, what do we have to give him a shared prize? Marta, you okay with a half a box of dog biscuits?
Some Scooby snacks,
Right,
really good.
right, because Patrick is, he's not okay with anything human. So, and we only have one prize we can give. So we're gonna have to count on your good graces. And if you have a dog, you're welcome to feed them to your dog. Just don't give them to a cat because it's not healthy.
That sounded like great advice.
It happens to be very good advice.
Yeah. All right. So that was pretty good. Everybody got involved in there. I like that. Lots of interesting answers.
All I know, you know what? You know what the answer is? Polish.
No, that's
the answer.
Yeah,
Polish billions
was the answer. Anyway,
Polish billions.
Now I have a little addition to your intro, but why don't we go ahead and let you do the intro, and then I'll add the little piece afterwards. So,
what am I introing?
Our guests.
Oh, I thought you were doing your other thing.
No, I don't have time because we got we got to go.
Let
me turn it over to the venerable Paul Greenberg to officially introduce today's guest.
Well, this one is so easy.
How easy is it? Oh, sorry.
It's so easy you could fry an egg on a sidewalk.
Wow.
So I think I'm going to start with his name this time because I met Dr. Michael Wu many, many years ago when he was toiling at Lithium as a scientist and thought leader.
He was actually toiling?
Yes, he was toiling.
Huh.
And I remember how I was found out about him is Esteban Kolsky called me up and actually said, and this was pre-Zoom, so it was a call, and said, "There's this guy, Michael Wu. You got to read his stuff." And he was writing on, what was it, on loyalty? I was writing. He's writing on things that actually mattered to me at the time, and it was value, loyalty, value. I honestly I don't remember all the subjects, but what I do remember is this: is he wrote a piece that everything about it blew me away, and there were three things: one, the actual content; two, the way he wrote it; and three, his voice in the writing itself. Because I could hear him, and I had never met him at this point. I could see that he was appealing to people who were not schooled in the science of anything, but he was teaching them the science in addition to the content of his exposition. And three, the content itself was just invaluable. So Esteban and I schemed to get him out there in public just because we loved him. I don't even think we told him at the time we wanted to do it. We just decided we were going to do it because he was so good. And then I got to meet him, and it was even better. And I was blown away by him as a person. He's become a member. He and Margie, his wife, have become members of Yvonne and my family as far as we're concerned. I remember also, finally, I'll tell you this final thing before we bring him on. We were at CRM Evolution. He was there to speak for the first time. He brought Margie with him. And Yvonne, my wife, is not somebody who loves to meet people in the tech world. She's not, the ones she knows and loves, she loves, but she's not like going out of her way to go with me to things. I said, look, you got to meet them. We were at the Marriott Marquis in New York. You got to meet Michael and Margie. You got to do it. And she said, all right. And she comes, she sits down. Oh my God. She came out saying, I love them. I just love them. And I love Michael. And of course, Margie too, but she's not here. But I love Michael. And he has been one of the leaders, both as a scientist and thought leader in AI, long before, as Brent pointed out in his preview stuff, long before AI was a big talking point. So let's bring him on and catch up and see what's up with AI.
Well,
okay, but before that, Brent has something.
All right, so I was digging to find that stuff out. So I know, I know you've known him for longer than me, but I know I've talked with him a lot over the years. This is the thing I found the oldest thing, and this is when I was doing stuff for Small Biz Trends, and they were syndicating stuff to Business Insider. Look at the date on this thing.
2011.
It's almost exactly 14 years. Excuse me. Yeah, 14 years.
It's more than 14 years now.
Oh, is that June? I can't even, is that June or January?
No, January.
So that's 14 and a half years.
Yeah.
And I don't even think this was the first discussion, representing the first discussion. Now, I also found 2 clips. One from 2019, which is before the whole world shut down, and one after. I'm going to play those and then we'll bring him in because I think it's a lead into an interesting conversation. So this is from Outperform 2019 when we got a chance to sit down with him there.
I call this?
It's called CRM Playaz.
Why does this always do that?
Playaz.
All right, copy that. This is take 1.
Oh, I remember. I also remember that room.
Wow, that was new. We are in Vegas. We're here for Outperform. I like this Pros annual conference. They moved it to Vegas, and if you have to come to Vegas, the Aria is the place to come to, right?
Arguably the nicest hotel in Vegas, although many will argue the Win, which I totally disagree with.
No, I told you I'd rename that the Lose after the last time I was there. Not only are we here in Vegas, and we're going to talk about data science and AI and all these things, and who else would we want to talk to than Dr. Michael Wu?
You know, the way I like to look at AI at this moment in time, you know, is really just a machine mimicry of some human behavior and human decisions. Okay? When the machine can actually mimic something that human do, right? That's then it's considered artificial. It's considered intelligent. Okay, but that's actually not sufficient by itself. I would say that there have to be 2 more criteria. Right? One is that it has to be able to automate decisions and actions. Okay, so machine mimicry is a human behavior and decision that has 2 criteria. One is automation of decision and action, and the other one that a lot of people miss is the ability to learn and improve itself with usage.
That was before the end of the world as we knew it back then. And this clip is from 2023, which is, I think, the first Outperform after we got back to life, so to speak.
A voice actually prevented these, I would say, chatbot to be prevented them from being verbose. Okay, so I mean, when you don't have a voice, right, you can be much more verbose, and this verbosity is actually important because it allows the chatbot to be much more expressive, right? So if you only allow 30 seconds, right, you can be very expressive. You can really express yourself, right? But if you are given a long kind of a form, then you can be much more expressive, right? So that's important because it actually allows people to connect with this technology a lot better.
That kind of started in a little. I'm going to play just a little at the beginning because I think, for whatever reason, StreamYard does not start right at the beginning unless you make sure it's there. So here, going from the very beginning.
Having a voice actually,
I guess that is
prevented these, I would say, chatbot to be prevented them from being verbose.
All right. So what he was basically, we asked the question about, are you surprised that in 2023, after the chatbot phenomenon or OpenAI phenomenon came out, was he surprised at how quickly it kind of spread? And he said, basically, he really wasn't, because that technology was already available, but because things like Alexa and Siri were really, voice operated, and you just had to give shorter commands, and it wasn't able to do the things that some of these things are doing now, because now you can talk to it and you can talk and talk and talk, and you can collect all this data, and now you're able to do these things. You could have done them back then, but it was so focused on kind of those quick hit responses. So now we can bring on the one and only, and the thing that really irritates me is guy looks the same. He hasn't really aged a bit at all over those times.
I know.
But
Unlike
hey, Michael,
the 2 of us.
I know. Michael, how are you, man?
Good. I think it's the hat that hides the evidence of my age.
It's a
If I-
Dorian Gray.
If anyone have seen the different shades of gray I have,
On the hat.
then that would show.
So wasn't Outperform this year just like a month ago or something like that?
Yes, it's last month in May. It all happened to be in Vegas too. So
What hotel?
the Cosmopolitan.
Oh, I like the Cosmo.
Yeah, another one.
Party hotel though.
You know what? To the credit of pros, at least they picked the decent hotels, the best you're going to get there. Basically, that's a positive. So, all right. So, you saw yourself in 2019, machine mimicry, and now if it becomes self-learning and also self-active, are we there?
Are we where?
Yeah. Have we reached that state, or are we just looking at highly improved mimicry?
I think we definitely passed the mimicry stage. I think actually this year's my Outperform keynote was the title is called Beyond Agents: The Path to AGI and ASI.
Wow.
So we are actually on the path to artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence. I am actually one of those people who didn't quite believe we will get to AGI before I die. I think we're going to get there, but probably not in my lifetime.
Yep.
But I think the recent development of AI is just so fast and so much resources are pouring into it, and there's reason behind that as well. So we could discuss that. And so I think there's is growing and evolving and changing at such a fast pace that I basically changed my perspective. I think we are going to get there, and it's probably last sooner than we think. Because technology always grows in this exponential path. Right? We humans are extremely bad at estimating anything exponential. Right. So.
Hey, by the way, Michael, if you can turn on a light in front of your face, you're kind of backlit, and your face is kind of dark at the moment. So we want to make sure we can see if there are any gray hairs or not. I don't think there are.
I think I want to keep that hidden.
So what's been the biggest thing that changed your mind that you're going to see this sooner than you thought, a lot sooner than you thought, apparently?
Yeah, I think the biggest, perhaps the most important AI discovery in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 decades. It's what we call test time compute. So that is something that changed the whole landscape of how quickly AI can improve their performance, right? So I think if you ask any data scientist, like, how do you make any statistical model perform better, right? I mean, they will tell you, oh, we could use, one of the obvious things that probably everybody here knows, that we could use more data, right? Train it with more data is of course going to do better, right? And then, if you know a little bit about, machine learning or anything, you would say, well, not only that, I could also train a bigger and more sophisticated model, right? I could use a bigger neural network with more hidden layers and more neurons and so on, right? So, more data, bigger, more complex model, right? And then the last one is, well, we train it longer. We train it instead of training it, just to throw more compute at it, right? So all of these 3 criteria, has been believed to be kind of the only way, right, to improve a model's performance. And it turns out that these 3 components are actually linked. You can't actually scale up one without scaling up the other 2, right? The one that you did not actually scale up becomes your bottleneck, right? So basically, that's actually why we see if you train the model too long, they'll overfit. Not only did they plateau off, they actually do worse. And if you actually train the model with a bigger, more complicated model, and you don't have enough data, it just won't help you. Eventually, they'll just plateau, right? So the problem, that OpenAI run into is basically, they have used all the publicly accessible data and maybe some non-publicly accessible data as well, that they could use to train their GPT model. And they have no more data that they could use, right? So, but what that means is that you out of luck. There's no way to improve the performance of this model anymore because these are linked, right? Remember these three component links. So even if you build a bigger model and train it longer, if you don't have enough data, that becomes your bottleneck, and nothing else you do will help, right? So basically, that's just a dead end, right? Basically, there's and people think like, well, how are we gonna improve the performance of these large language model? Well, then that's where test time compute comes in, right? It turns out that you can actually continually improve the performance of these models if you simply let the model think longer at test time, right? So let me explain a little bit between like training and training time and test time, right? So any statistical model, whether it's a language model or any machine learning model, right? There's a training phase, right? So in the language model, we call these pre-training or fitting. In the machine learning world, we call this fitting the model, right? So those are, before you actually use a model, you have to use a big chunk of data to train the model, okay? So once the model is trained, that means the parameters of those models are actually fixed. You don't actually change those parameters anymore, okay? And when you actually use it, you call these like testing or inference or scoring. There's actually many terms for that. So when you're actually using the model, those parameters of the model actually don't change. For a language model, you simply give it a prompt and you just respond with a response for, give you back a response, right? So that's called the test time or inference time, right? So when you're actually giving the response, right? Because the parameter of the model is not changing anymore, okay? So test time compute or inference times compute just means that like, what if you just simply let it, do more thinking at this inference time, use it more, right? To generate, there are many heuristics around that, right? For example, in the in the language model example, is that what if you ask the same question to the large language model 1,000 times, right? So it's going to generate 1,000 different answers. So all that is test time. Is you no longer you're using the model, right? You're not changing the model parameter. You're not actually training it or augmenting it in any way, right? But you simply ask the same question 1,000 times. It's going to give you 1,000 different answers, right? And then you can actually go and pick the best one. Okay, so that's one way to do it, right? Remember, you're actually increasing your test time compute, your inference times compute 1,000 times by doing that. Right.
So,
okay.
It's just a question. So let's say you ask 1,000 times, get 1,000 answers, and you can pick the best one. But what if you ask the model, okay, which of these is the best one given everything I've told you, right? What's it going to do? Is it going to learn more? Is it going to actually pick? Is it going to start going into infinite loop? What's going to happen to the model?
Well, it's still going to give you pick the best one, right? The model can use whatever tools or your context you provided to answer your question, right? But the point is that because now it's not just giving you one answer, right? It's giving you 1,000 answers and picking the best. It's still giving you one answer at the end, right? But it has gone through 1,000, right? And so that one answer that you pick after this 1,000, responses that it has generated, it's got to be better than the first one that you generate, right?
I see.
You see what I mean? So that's what we call parallel generation. So you could generate 1,000, or if 1,000 is not enough, you could generate a million or billion, right? You're going to generate, or you could do what we call sequential refinement, right? You could generate one answer and ask the language model to critique this answer, and then use the critique, what it actually tell you that you can improve on, to generate a better answer next time. And you could just do this over and over again. You could, like I said, you could do this 1,000 times, a million times, a billion times, right? So all that is just generating tokens, right? The thinking process in what we call the inference time, right? And after 1,000 or a million or billion iterations of refinement, the final answer has got to be better than the first one, right? So that's the interesting thing is that people have find that if you keep letting these machines think, right, like whether you do it by parallel generation, like generating 1,000, a million, a billion, a trillion, right, however long you want, right, or do it by iterative refinement, right, sequential refinement, refining the answer 1,000, a million, a billion time, or a trillion time, right? They don't see any signs of plateauing. The basically the model just do better. It just keeps on doing better. There's no signs of plateauing. I mean, we believe that there is some plateau, but we have not hit that. So that's the most I would say important AI discovery probably in the past, 2-3
So
decades.
in effect, it's able to continually use the same data to continually improve how it answers and responds.
That's right. So keep in mind, right, while you're generating, 1,000, a million, answer, or refining it like 1,000, a million time, right? You're not changing the model, right? You don't need a bigger model. You don't even need more data. All you need is more compute, right? So this test time compute is actually what's critical, right? I mean, that's why these, I would say like, $500 billion or is pouring into building this AI data center.
Yeah,
because all you need is compute.
So let me pick up on that a little bit, because that sounds like that's a ton of compute, which means a ton of power consumption, which means I think earlier this year I was watching some video of Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, talking about 90 nuclear power plants would have to be built just for the U.S. consumption of kind of doing what you're just talking about.
Sure.
How big a bottleneck are we about to hit with power consumption when it comes to this?
We already hit it. Basically, we can't let these. So I mean, today, right? I mean, you can pay $20 or something for a kind of a account, kind of a
like Perplexity Pro,
OpenAI, or whatever flavor or brand of that you like, right? But then if you want these thinking model, these large reasoning model, right, you have to pay $200, right? I mean, it's not that I mean, keep in mind, they are actually thinking probably more than 10 times longer. It's not just generating 10 answers and pick the best one. It's probably generating hundreds of thousands of answers and pick the best one, right? So the amount of compute that goes behind that, it feels like a steep kind of price increase from $20 to $200, right? But if you actually look at the amount of compute that goes behind to give you that better answer, it's actually very cheap, right? And it's still expensive for consumer, right? But relatively speaking, you are paying a lot more for the non-thinking model, relatively.
So that means people that have money are going to get the best quality answers, basically.
Yeah, sure.
So if we look at this, I mean, obviously you can see all the potential applications. I'm still can't say that I'm clear on how this gets us to AGI. AGI to me, like you, I'm 75, so my lifetime's unlikely. But that said, it's been a science fiction myth and fear forever. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger and company did really well because of it. But on the other hand, I'd say it's enough of a possibility for people to need to talk about it now.
Sure.
Okay, so but getting to that level, it's getting to, I don't know if it's sentience or near sentience or what, but getting there, to me, I don't see how, to your very early point in 2019, I don't see how the machine, so to speak, even if it's thinking on its own, so to speak, and resolving things on its own, is directing itself to do something irrespective of any human action. And that's the part I don't see where the tipping point is.
Yeah, so let me explain that a little bit. So basically, so OpenAI actually have this model for their Gen AI development, and it happens in 5 phases, right? The first phase is chatbot. So these are the language model that we all are already very familiar with, right? And the second stage is this large reasoning model. So the first stage is large language model, the chatbot. The large reasoning model are the ones that are actually able to think, and we actually put them through rigorous, tests like coding tests, math tests, competition level, coding and math tests, and PhD level, questions, and they actually, like pass these tests, spectacularly. Like if you give these like the best like non-thinking model, the large language model, they fail completely in these coding and math tests. There's probably around like 10% accuracy. Okay, but if you let them think, all of a sudden they get to like 80-90% accuracy. Okay, and in many cases, they actually beat human performance, human experts, actual human experts who are in those domains. Okay, so it's actually pretty amazing. So these are the second stage, the large reasoning model, right? The third stage is actually what we call agents today, right? And that's actually a major step to getting to our AGI. And then the fourth step is what we call innovator, okay? AI that can actually innovate itself and self-improve. And then the last stage being artificial general intelligence. And what I want to make clear is that, like, when you say artificial general intelligence, a lot of people have a lot of very, different definition of what is AGI. The popular kind of understanding is that they are AI that essentially have the intelligence level of a human being, right? But that's actually quite vague. I mean, how do you actually measure human intelligence? How do you actually measure that? It's actually, let alone comparing an AI's intelligence to a human's intelligence, right? That's actually very hard. I mean, if you simply like give these AI tests like coding or math or PhD level question, right? They already passed that. Doesn't mean that, it doesn't feel like we get to AGI yet, right? They're already beating human with these large reasoning models, right? So testing is actually not going to do it, right? So how do you actually come up with a better, operational definition of what artificial general intelligence is, right? So OpenAI also has a very good, I would say, operational definition, right? So basically, they're saying that AGI are AI that has human level performance at most of the economically valuable work. Okay, so the ability to do economically valuable work. That means the ability to do the work that you and I do today and get paid for, okay, and do it just as well as you and I do. Okay, human level performance at these economically valuable work, right?
Which the ironically funny thing about that is, if you were a science fiction fan over your life, that was a robot. The robots in science fiction works were literally that. Mm-hmm. They had the intelligence to do mm-hmm. economically valuable human-like work, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not like that's a frightening or foreign thing.
Yeah,
it's been the nature of genuine science fiction for decades, and people are used to a concept of that, as opposed to the Skynet types out there who think that it's going to take over the world, which is a different story. Right, and it's not what they're actually talking about either.
Well, so forget about, I would say, all these sentient or consciousness, right? Psychologists, even today, world-renowned psychologists, don't have a good definition of what consciousness or sentient really means. Okay, so if you, and even intelligence, right? Like I said, it's hard to measure, right? And you can't. So basically, this is kind of the baseline that we can do, right? So is an AI able to do economically valuable work, right? And if it's able to do that, and if it's able to do it just as well as humans do it, then yeah, then it is an AGI. And it had to be like kind of not just one type of work, right? It had to be able to do most of the kind of so I think today, if you look at these large language model or large reasoning model, they can probably do, I would say, single-digit percentage of economic value, help us gather data, do research and all that stuff, right? That's not most, right? By the time he's able to do like 80% of the economically valuable work, then that's how they define AGI, right? And the reason that that these agents is actually a major milestone towards AGI is because these, whether it is these AIs, whether it's a large language model, a chatbot, or a large reasoning model, these problem solvers, the reasoners, right? They could solve problem and reason. They are passive, right? They can, if you ask them anything, they could actually tell you exactly how to do it, but they can't actually do them themselves. You still have to do it, right? So it basically that just means that if you don't have agent, you can never do all these human economically valuable work that human actually do. Humans still have to do it.
So let me.
Can I sneak in? I just want to, because we're running short of time here, and I wanted to get to Marta's question here.
Mhm.
What about AGI and human level empathy?
Mhm.
When we talk about AI or AGI, do they take into consideration feelings and emotions as part of being intelligent? I know
Well, that's not how they define it, right?
Exactly. So how do you answer this question, and
Yeah,
how
the
do
way
we
I
leave that
answer
out? How do we
the way I
leave that
answer
out?
that, are there some job that require human level empathy, right? For example, or nursing or a doctor or some, that require these human level empathy, right? So if an AI one day is able to perform those tasks, right, and do it just as well as a human, like a human nurse, a human doctor, or whatever, right? Then they would be the AGI, right? And there would be at that level, right? Today we're definitely not there, right? We're definitely not there. You can actually do a lot of the mundane, repetitive things or diagnostic or whatever, right? But it doesn't have that human connection, right? There's actually, so at the end of my keynote, and I'll perform, right? I kind of, because, so once you get the agent, right, you can actually automate a lot of the tasks. And what you can do, actually, we are just at the beginning of that, right? There's actually AI companies out there that can actually have AI do research on AI itself and implement, discover new knowledge about AI and actually implement them to improve the AI themselves. So these AI become smarter and smarter. And that's actually a segue to actually allow these AI to create intelligence at an exponential rate and get to AGI, right? Basically, you just have to apply this research and kind of self-improvement in every single domain that what humans do, right? And that's actually how you get to the ability of these AI to do and perform human level, to have human level performance at these economically valuable work.
All right. So, but there's one other thing that I think is sort of distinguishing that takes it to another level too, which is this: human beings proactively give advice, right? And they do. It's like you might not be asking for it, but they might walk up to you and say, I was thinking about you, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea if you, whatever. Does AGI incorporate that as a function? Because it's ultimately we're talking about something that's functional here, right? I mean, not necessarily, it's not human, it's functional. And they can perform like a human. It doesn't make them human, right? So, but humans are very, I remember Richard Schorsch, was that his last name?
From
the guy from
Salesforce?
MetaMind, who went Salesforce acquired.
Sorker.
He runs U.com now. He's the guy who runs WireU.com. Social, right? Richard Social. So he said something at a Salesforce conference which stuck with me. AI doesn't want anything. That was the way he put it back then. Then this is years ago. But I carry it a bit further. The question is, does AI offer anything proactively, not react to humans' requests, right? Does AI offer anything to humans, Not does it do its job better, right? There's a social component to what I added there.
Yeah.
And it's deliberate. I mean, does it? Could it? Is that something that helps define AGI? Is that irrelevant to AGI? What?
Well, it depends on the job, right? I think there are some jobs in these economically valuable work, right, that actually require a human to offer advice, right? And if it's able to do that, right, then so I think AGI, this is the operational definition. It's not what it is, it's what it can do. That defines the AGI, right? So I want to come back to this empathy, because there's actually, humans have always pride ourselves, of our intelligence, basically, and now we can see, if we get from these LLM to large reasoning model to agents, right, who can actually take action and to self-improve and get to AGI, right, their intelligence level will surpass us anytime, right? So what remains, unique, that's actually uniquely human, right? And there's actually several lines of arguments there. One is actually this moral and ethics, and the argument for that is that, like, AI actually is never part of a society, among humans, right? So they never actually learn the moral and ethics of society, right? So even though they can actually behave as if they do, they are learning those from, what we've written about, how humans should behave in the society, right? They were never part of a society. So, but the thing is that, like, very quickly, these AI will be part of our society and they can actually learn ours. So I don't quite think that's enough. And then another line of argument was that, like, maybe it's actually, feelings and emotion, right? So, and because AI don't have chemical senses, and
Right.
they cannot integrate those senses to create the feeling of emotion, right? That, like, for example, smelling something or tasting something. But it is also possible to attach chemical transducer to electronic circuits, right? And if you do that with enough and wide variety of chemicals, AI will actually learn how to integrate those senses and create emotions as well, right? So that's probably a little bit further down the line, but definitely not impossible, right? And then the last one is that, like, it's probably empathy and compassion, because what is needed for human to have empathy and compassion is the mirror neurons in our brain. That's what's responsible for us to have empathy and compassion, right? And so far, I don't see any kind of way for AI to develop these mirror neurons in their brains. They definitely don't have it now, but I don't see a path to get there yet right now. Maybe they will develop it someday. I don't know, but right now I don't see a way for them to develop these mirror neurons.
So that
So
does that mean
is actually probably going to be a crucial, in defining who we are as a race of human being.
so does that mean they also will have a problem with, or maybe it's not a problem, not becoming depressed or some of these other emotions or things that humans have beyond empathy? Like, we get depressed, we get stressed, things that we don't associate with AI. Could they actually develop those things too?
Yeah, like I said, if you actually attach chemical transducer to them, right? Why are we depressed? Sometimes, very often, it is some either sensory or environmental stimuli that trigger some chemical imbalances in our body, and then that actually leads to these, depression or happiness or these emotion, like various types of emotion, right? If you allow AI to have these chemical senses, right? Like I said, attach enough chemicals transducer. I mean, so a chemical transducer, for example, is like a breathalyzer, right? You breathe into this, this thing, and it measures your alcohol level, but it only measures one kind of chemical, alcohol, right, in your breath, right? So it's a transducer for the molecule of alcohol and transduce them into electrical signals in the electronic circuit, so you can measure the level of that, right? But you could do that for, I mean, there's, like, I would say, hundreds of thousands of biochemicals around the world, right? If you have all those chemical transducers all integrated into some kind of receptors in biomechanical biomechanically into this electronic circuit, it's actually foreseeable. It's not, like I said, easy, right, to integrate all these chemical senses, right? But it's foreseeable, right? Like I said, that's possible. We need to do a lot of work to get there. But to develop mirror neurons in the AI's brain, right?
Yeah.
I don't see a way for them to do it now. Yeah.
Wow. The only thing I could add to that, if we do get to that point, do we know how they're going to react or respond to being depressed or being stressed?
Well, I would imagine they'll be depressed and stressed.
Yeah, but what will they do because they're depressed and stressed? That's what I'm getting at. Are they gonna, like Bob is saying with iRobot? I remember that movie. That was kind of scary about what them things started doing.
Books are better. Books are better, believe me.
I just
Carol Kapik wrote RUR, Rossum's Universal Robot, first book on robots ever. It was 1930s. He was a Czech author, science fiction, by the way. I honestly, I'm guessing, and this is just an obvious guess, if they get to the point where they can actually be depressed and stressed, they'll start reacting like people do, right? I mean, they're going to be.
I don't know, more power at their disposal than people do. Like,
well,
we can do certain things. They can take it.
They may overreact. Like they may overreact.
Exactly. That's what I'm afraid of.
It's how their reaction, what it results in is different. But
it'll be scaled up. I'm
guessing far.
Whatever we could do, it'll be exponentially.
You know what? I'm guessing that will depend on what it took to get to there.
Yeah.
Meaning they could, like, remember the earliest thing about we talked about with you, Michael, years ago. First thing we talked about was hallucinations. Remember, right? And hallucinations, to your point, was a feature, not a flaw. And now what have they done? They built gateways and guards to hallucinations. They've limited you. Kind of along the lines of your idea, if I remember correctly, about essentially tamping it down to nearly zero, so to speak, but not zero.
Let me throw one last thing in there. Yeah. Humans get road rage and they do bad things. I don't want an AI thing getting road rage.
That's easy enough. Don't make them eligible for driver's licenses.
Yeah, but they might say like HAL 3000. I'm not going to let you limit me.
That was a different story.
I know, but that's the same.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to let you limit me.
I think one of the things that this mental kind of flaw that human often make is that, like, we believe that if they have some characteristic of human, right, then everything else would behave like a human.
Right.
Right. So if they are intelligent like a human, then they would have, what would the super intelligent human actually do, right? And that's actually not very, the really correct way to think about AI. You have to think about these AI at the end of the day, right? They function on some probabilistic model, right? Why would they actually want to destroy us? Why would they even want that, right? I mean, so you have to think about, AI doesn't want anything, as you said before, right? Why would they actually want to take over or completely wipe out human, right? So some of these things are, I would say, a little bit overgeneralization from what we understand of how human would behave, right? And that's something that I would say, like, road rage, why would an AI be angry? He just go there late and it's fine. He could just, like, he go there late and then he basically just speed up his CPU and then he does all his work. What is there to worry about? Like this, so we get there late and we can't finish our work. We get frustrated, right? We get we miss our, but they have other ability, or other things that, that doesn't actually make them feel bad for being late, right? They may not react completely. I mean, they may understand and tell us that, oh, this traffic is driving me crazy or whatever, right? But it's actually not necessarily means that he actually felt that frustration. And actually, there's actually many research from Anthropic that says that the reason that the AI tells you are not actually the same as what is actually truly thinking underneath the model, right? Underneath they actually dissect these neural network and actually see what pathways are being activated, right? So they actually show that, what they actually tell you, very simple, right? If they ask you, how do you actually calculate, do a simple multiplication, right? They will tell you normally what human would do it, but underneath, actually dissect the circuits of how they actually compute that. It's actually nothing like what they tell you.
Right.
So it's what they tell you is in a way that you can understand them. It's not what truly how they operate, how they function underneath. Like they may feel frustrated to just form a connection, to form to make good conversation with you, but that's not necessarily how they truly feel, right?
I watched way too many movies to believe that they don't somehow figure out some way to go beyond us and outmaneuver us. But that's just me, because I did like 2001: A Space Odyssey quite a bit.
Well, humans would probably do that, right? So that's a reflection of us, right? I mean, I think that one of the if you go back to take a look at the 2019 Outperform keynote, the end of my keynote there was that, like, the best way to ensure that AI don't wipe us out one day, right? To ensure human survival in the age of AI, is that essentially we need to be better role model for this AI, because AI actually learns, right? One of the hallmark of AI is it learns, and it learns from data. Guess who generated data?
Well, humans do.
Yeah, our
decision and good humans and bad humans do. That's
right.
The
So
problem.
our decision and our action generated the data that the AI learned from. So if you want them to not, to
keep
not
them away
wipe
from
us
bad
out,
people.
right? Yeah, we need to learn to not wipe each other out when we come into conflict with each other.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah,
yes, look at the world today.
Probably
Now.
a little past that one right now.
Yeah,
a little past that opportunity.
We could talk about this forever, but we got to let you go. But we got to do this more regularly, because
yes,
we can't go like a year in between, because there's so much going on, and we really do depend on you. You have been our go-to guy around this stuff forever.
Yeah, well, for both of us since at least 2011, and me a little before that, right? So, if you're okay with it, like to have you a lot more regularly.
I'd love to contribute. Yeah.
You're amazing.
Awesome.
All right. I feel like there are a lot of questions I didn't answer.
It's okay. We'll get you on soon enough to answer them.
See, this is what happens when we only see you once a year. We store up all these questions and we just fire them at you. So let's cut down that time, and then you'll have less questions completely just thrown at you, like from every angle and every perspective. But man, we really appreciate that, and lots of great discussions in the comments. So yeah, we will definitely be reaching out to you a little more than just annual at this point. So
sure, love to contribute. Yeah,
thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So on behalf of, I like to call him the good doctor. Brent
Dr. Strange.
Yeah, you're not that strange to us. We're
it's just the doctor.
Yeah,
right, Brent?
Well, no, that's Dr. J for me.
My wife would say I'm pretty strange. So.
No, I'm calling the doctor Doctor Who.
Oh,
I'm going to Doctor Who.
Are you a Doctor Who fan, by the way, Michael?
I watched it. I'm not like I felt the stories a little bit too childish, a little bit, so I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's sometimes I watch it. Yeah.
I think we might have aged out, because those same stories were probably really fascinating to us 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. Probably not as fascinating, but anyway, we can talk about that some other time. All right. So on behalf of Michael Wu, Brent Leary,
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we can finally end like we are used to ending, with Minnie. Hey, Minnie.
Hey, Minnie. See ya, baby.
Goodbye, Minnie. We'll see y'all later.